You're going to see me a lot in this sweater, and that's just to let you know I do wash this sweater. I'm not wearing this every single day unwashed. I do wash it, and I do have other clothes, but I prefer this one. Anyway, getting into the purpose of this video, it is Fiction Friday. It's episode 2, and this video is going to be all about Little Rat by Akwaeke Emezi. Editing Sierra here. I'm just gonna let you know now at the end of editing this video. It's about an hour long, so please grab some snacks, grab a drink, or if you literally don't want to sit here and stare at me, that's completely fine. I get it. I don't like staring at people either. Um, you could put me on in the background, do your laundry, hell, do a puzzle. I don't care. Play Sims, do whatever you do. I really don't care. But just listen along. It's a lengthy video, so I'm gonna warn you right now. Sorry, not sorry. I had a lot of thoughts when it came to this book, so get yourself ready, buckle up. Also, trigger warning, I will be talking about religion, shmexuality, shmex. I'm saying it like this because I don't want, even though I don't make any money from my YouTube channel, I get barely any views. Um yeah, even though I don't make money from this, I still want to be sensitive and I don't want to, I don't want to be that person. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about it though, and just like the story and also thoughts that came up for me. So this is all my opinion. This is all based off of what I was thinking throughout the story. So yeah, trigger warning for shmexuality, religion, exploitation, and mental health too. Mental health and yeah, mental health, because I feel like that's a huge component of the story. So please be warned. All right, love you. Bye. Now, this book had me thinking a lot. So, this video is going to be different from the first episode. There's a lot of different things that it brought up for me. So, I'm going to break it up into sections and just talk about different concepts that came up for me and just how to navigate the story in general for those who are newer to the story. But also, this is my first book by them that I'm reading. So, it's going to be an interesting ride. Alright, so I'm gonna have like different sections for this video in terms of concepts and themes that come about for me. So this is gonna be very chill, very laid back, but just what I get the sense of from the story and things that have come up for me. So this is completely different from the first one. I'm still trying to get like the groove of how to do my book discussions. But this one was completely different and I love it for it. And so far it's been interesting. So for the first section, I'm not monetized on this channel, and so there's no way for me to be demonetized, but still just being cautious. I'm just going to say the first section is shmex and shmexuality. If you get what I'm saying, or if you read the story, then you know what I'm going on based on that. So for the first thing that came up for me was just even at the beginning when Ima was talking about how she like created a different version of herself to Kalu, and that raised like some red flags for me, because it's like, did y'all really create a different version of yourself that is palatable for each other? Like, that made me immediately question, why were y'all together in the first place? Like, there's ways to being like trying to, make yourself sound better, make yourself seem like more confident, to the opposite sex or even the same sex, in terms of like attraction and being in a relationship, but actually like changing like actually creating a different version of yourself to make this relationship seem okay, make the other person feel more comfortable. That's very concerning. So immediately that one was just okay. This is something to start off with. Let's see how it goes from there. If you see me looking down, that's because I have my notes down here on paper, but I also will be putting up quotes straight from the book to kind of support my points that I'm making. So they'll be up on the screen too, but I'll also be reading them over here on my iPad. So if my eyes dart to anywhere else, that's why. So pretty much like upon their breakup, Ima engages in physical activity with her best friend. So that immediately made me think, has she always been attracted to her best friend? Like, has there always been like an underlying attraction to her? But I mean, I know that she wasn't there for a while. It made it seem like Ima didn't even leave, that her friend lived in the area. At least that's what I thought. Or did she actually? I can't really understand that part. That part, I don't know why, but it literally confused me for a bit. It probably still confuses me now as I'm talking about this. But just essentially, she possibly could have had feelings or attraction to her friend Ajendu, which makes me even wonder her sexuality, which I shouldn't even wonder that. Everyone's sexuality is different, how they identify, what they're attracted to, not attracted to. But just from the first like 5 pages alone, I immediately thought that I'm over straight. That's my fault. I shouldn't do that. That's bad. That's terrible of me. So yeah, so then with her relationship with Kalu, did she find Kalu attractive still? Like, was she still attracted to him? I'm assuming so, because why would you be in a relationship with someone you're not attracted to? But some people actually do it. Wild, I know. But it just made me aware of just like, okay, so, but with Kalu, did she think that this was like more acceptable? Because even within like the first like 20, 30 pages or so, she has this religious component to her, talking about how in the eyes of God they're supposed to be married type of thing. So I thought maybe there's some like religious aspects tied to it, that she was trying to make it seem more appealing, or at least trying to justify it, at least for herself and for her family, of not only being attracted to Kalu, but being in a relationship with them. Because she kept putting it out, she kept emphasizing that they're supposed to be married, like in the eyes of God, they're supposed to be married before like living together fully and doing the whole big thing. So there was that component too, which kind of threw me off a bit. And going off of that, it's essentially something that just really came up for me, was just like, does she love Kalu or her friend, or is it coming from a place of want/lack? And that point probably sounds like very much like, huh, what are you talking about? But I'm going to give some actual context. So I'm gonna put the quote up here. It reads, "She prayed before for a love that would never leave her lonely. She had gotten it in Kalu. She'd been safe in it for years, allowed herself to feel safe, only for it to all be stripped away in the end. What kind of an answer to a prayer was that?" So in the context, how I'm taking it is just like how she always wanted a love that never left her lonely. So the fact that her and Kalu broke up, and now that she feels lonely, she immediately gets into physical activity with Ijendu. So is she really just not wanting to feel lonely? Has she ever felt an actual like genuine love for it? Or is it because she's created a version of love that comes from a deep need, versus like genuinely just like, oh, I love you and I want to be with you, but it's coming from a place of like loneliness. She doesn't want to be lonely, so she clung to Kalu for like 4 years. I think it was, they were together 4 years. But then now that they've broken up, she's clinging to Ijendu literally in the bed. So it makes me just wonder where her head is at when it comes to this jumping from situation to situation. Like, is there some therapy needed underneath? Like, is there some attachment issues, some insecurities underlying? Like insecurities, not just like in the sense of her connection to her religion, but insecurities within her own sexuality. So then another thought that I have was just like, is she using shrunk as a means to an end, not actually necessarily using it for a sense of like love and connection, but as a need, essentially, like trying to cling to somebody. And Yeah, but like, is she really using physical act as a way to become attached to someone? And I feel like this point, this quote up here, let me just jump right to it. Ima came back into the room as the other girls were singing along and dancing in a circle around Ijandu. They were beating the drums and, you know, putting on eyeshadow. And Ima smiled, but she felt so separate from them, so carved out. And not just because she was high. It was more like there was a picture she had been cut out of, and it essentially she didn't fit. Like, she didn't fit in the picture. So it's kind of like playing into the fact that she didn't fit into this perfect image of what was going on, that she was kind of like, and she felt kind of like an outsider of it. Was that her way of trying to become part of the circle by having that physical intimacy with the Ijandu? Is that her way of trying to ground herself in not only in Ijandu's circle of friends, but more in Ijandu's life, even though they're already best friends? But like, is it coming from like a deep need to cling to somebody? Like, I feel like that's what it kind of is. It's like jumping from a long relationship. As soon as you break up with that person, immediately you jump into another relationship or something extremely intimate, and people are like, what are you doing? Like, that's kind of wild that you just did that to that. You know, it just raised some interest in me. Not even like concerns, I'm not gonna say concern, but just like it made me curious as to where her mindset is at to go from there to there. And the fact that Emezi has the character jump into that situation like that. Is there some underlying things going on that I'm just not getting? Last point I'm going to make about Ima's shmexuality, but is it her way of using as a way of rebellion? Because, and I quote, I'm gonna put it up here too, she's playing in places where she's not supposed to be, literally. So there's some religion aspects to that too as well, I believe. So I feel like that's going to be discussed more later on in this section of like religion. Now, I'm not going to talk about just Ima's shmexuality. Obviously, we're going to talk about Kalu's too. So for Kalu, I have that maybe the inner turmoil of the breakup resulted in just like some odd behavior. But maybe it's not even odd. Like, it makes me concerned that maybe he's done it before. Like, did he attend the shmex's parties while dating Ima? Like, while with her? Did he do it before her? Like, is this something completely normal for him? I mean, like, it's normal for his friend because his friend hosts the parties, but does he normally attend all the time? Like, is this something that he's done before? Like, whenever he has any extreme emotion situations or anything like that? Like, does he, is this what he does? Like, it just makes me very concerned that if he would rely on these type of behaviors when it comes to just like difficult situations. Like, maybe him and Ima would fight within the 4 years and he would call up his friend and be like, hey, I'm coming to this party, type of thing. But then also in the story, Kalu always got a letter no matter where he was. So his friend knew where he was to give them the letter. So it makes me question the friend too, now that I think about it. Like, why are you constantly inviting your friend who's in a relationship with somebody to come to your shmex parties? You already have a whole bunch of clients and you have people working for you. Why does your friend need to show up? It's kind of weird. Then we get some information about Kalu and his friend, God, what's his friend's name? Ahmed. They've had their own physical intimacy before, so there's a lot underlying that I'm just like, huh? Okay. I know sexuality is fluid and all, but maybe, possibly, these are just thoughts that I'm having. Maybe, possibly, Kalu and Ima, they were attracted to each other and they loved each other, but it was also a way for them to not truly accept or identify with the other aspects of themselves that maybe they're not ready to actually accept. They're not actually ready to admit it. So maybe there could be some aspects of that in terms of them being together and these separate physical intimacy situations between both their friends. I mean, Kalu's happened a while ago, but still, like, there's just some thought into that for me. Let me know in the comments below if that's something that you thought of, or at least something that raised some interest to you, some conversations to have. Maybe I'm just the only one. All right, so next section is not even that section. Next topic is religion. I didn't write this down. This is really just me chatting about it still from the first few chapters of the book, but I'm very curious as to if Ima will bring up her religion more in the story, but just so far what I've read, it seems like she wants to have a connection with God, but at the same time she's going through an act of rebellion, like saying, like, you know, she's playing in places that she's not supposed to, but also putting such an immense pressure on, I guess, her and Kalu's relationship, like how in the eyes of God it's a sin without being married. It's just a huge emphasis on it. I'm gonna pull this up too. They were supposed to be together until old age claimed them. They both talk about forever, built a home together and made plans, and foolishly she thought it was enough. Maybe she had been rash, careless to think that she didn't have to do the things the right way. Maybe she should have known that if he didn't love God the way she did, then he couldn't have been the real answer to her prayers. If there was gratitude to give God for that clarity, that release from a lie, Ima couldn't quite find it in her to send it up. Right now, she didn't want to talk to God. All she had was a plate full of bitter silence. So for me, it kind of, I feel like this is something that should have been discussed prior. Obviously, it's a story. We're getting the specific parts of drama and intrigue that Emezi wants to put into the story, obviously. But it just raises different things within myself when it comes to religion and religion within relationships, because everyone has different beliefs, but my pure belief, my pure understanding is that if you're going to be with somebody, religion should have been one of the first topics you talk about, because everyone has different beliefs and you don't have to have the same belief as your partner, but if you align with it, that's fantastic, because that's one thing you guys don't have to worry about. That's not one thing you don't feel like you have to compromise on your beliefs for the other person. And it feels like Ima and Kalu just weren't meant to be together, essentially, because if he doesn't love God the way she loves God, and he doesn't have the same belief, the same dedication to religion as she does, it wasn't going to work out in the first place. So I'm surprised it even lasted 4 years. But that's just my perspective on it. Just, it seems like now all of a sudden it's an issue when it should have been an issue a long time ago, prior to them like being together. Like, this is something that should always be considered. So that's just my point to just share with people. When it comes to being with somebody, think about those things, like talk about those topics, because you don't want to get with somebody that has the complete different beliefs of you. Like, you guys don't have to agree on the same things, but if you guys have like somewhat of a mutual belief, mutual understanding, it works better in a relationship than whatever that was, because the fact that she has such a deep connection to her religion, and at the same time, obviously right now she's pissed with God, because it's like, well, this wasn't the faithful relationship that I thought it was. Like, this isn't my forever. It's like, okay, yeah, girl, but what did you expect when you guys have different levels of belief? Like, that didn't raise any red flags for you, like, immediately? Because it does for me. All right, so then that brings us to the last topic for the first half of the story, which is I would just say, because I'm at this point, I'm literally just like making this up as I go. Morals and ethics in the sense of, church work. Ahmed, I'm pissed with Ahmed. So far I don't like him. Because when you get to the scene, you'll get it, you'll understand. If you're literally just like following along, just trying to get an idea of what the book is before you read it, but if you've actually read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Oh god. But Ahmed's business isn't bad. I'm not saying that. Ahmed's business is not bad, because sure, completely valid. There is a market for it as long as people are being respectful. Those who do the work are protected, in all senses of the word. Getting tests done. There's bodyguards. Their identity isn't easily identifiable. Any of that kind of stuff. Like, as long as you're doing all of the necessary, like, you're taking all the necessary measures and precautions to keep the people who work there safe, as well as your clients too. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the room. The room that Ahmed has pissed me off in his commentary on the room, and the technicalities of the person in that room pissed me off. I don't care how old that girl was, she should not have been there. And the person who was bringing them in there, Miss whatever her name is, I forgot her name. Anyway, we're just gonna move past it. But the madam, I'm just gonna say the madam. God. Like, there's short work and short workers where it's like, you know what, as long as you're safe, you're protected, and you're literally the age that you should be to be doing this work, you're fine. But literally, madam has this girl who is technically underaged doing shush work. I don't care that she technically looks younger, or that lying about the age, like whatever it is, it's just wrong. It's weird. And the fact that Ahmed has someone who tries to pretend like they're younger to feed some weird fetish of his clients, it's disgusting. I don't like it. And that's to say that it's not real, because obviously we know there are people who are into it, people who like that, people who actually damage children for their own sick pleasures. We know that, but still, I don't like it. So when it comes to this specific character, the person in the room doing the thing, not Kalu. Kalu was trying to stop it. Thank God. Thank you, Kalu, for that, because first of all, I didn't like you there at the church party in the first place. But the fact that you broke this up, you actually gained like a point in my book, because at least you put in some effort, because this girl should not be there. But the person who was doing the stuff, now it makes me nervous, because obviously this is like the height of the book where this person, I don't know, is it like a political figure or something like that? I'll have to refresh my memory when I read the rest of the book. But when this political, very important person starts doing what I think he's going to do in the story, oh God, I'm not ready for it, because it just makes me frustrated, because I already know what to expect. It probably will be different than what I'm expecting, but from what I can think of, I think it's gonna go down that route. I don't want to give any details, because I don't know. I just don't want to give details of what I'm expecting to happen in a story, because it leads to some characters type of thing. Yeah, because obviously looking for Kalu for breaking up this interaction. Like, whatever. it's just sad. So it's just really like the morals and ethics of the age of these workers, the level of consent or lack thereof consent if they're not of age, or lying about the age to get them work, saying that they've done it before. That doesn't make it right. Yeah, it's just, I feel like that part is just a mess when it comes to the story, and it made me mad to even read it. I was just trying to get past it because I'm like, this is an interesting book so far. I like it, but these topics, this subject so far is extremely heavy, and it yeah, it's very heavy, and it's like, oh god, here we go. It's like it's as heavy as when we were silent. It's like that, where you're just like, you know, it's gonna be a great book in the sense of like it's written very interestingly, and the pacing's good. It keeps you very intrigued, but the subject of the story is not good. So you're not like, oh my god, 5 stars, it was amazing. Like it's a little bit more nuanced and hard to decipher how it makes it a great book, because you're not saying what the thing is great. It's just the direction and the writing style that makes it great. It's very blurred lines when it comes to saying that these kind of books, Little Rot and When We Were Silent, are great books. That's just my take on it. Okay, back to the religion real quick, because I was literally flipping through the pages looking for Madam's name, and it reminded me of part of Aima's recollection of the situation between her and Ejendu, and her immediately like praying to God and asking to be forgiven for the situation. It's like, yeah, girl, you said you were to play in places where, you know, you're not supposed to. So was that your act of rebellion? Were you just, you know, feeling it? Because I don't want to say the word. I don't want to say the H word, but were you just feeling it? I think she was just very drunk. I mean, because they were literally at the club, and she was like tapping her friend's butt. They were being like very close. So maybe it was just very much like, you know, alcohol releases your inhibitions and all that stuff. Feel the rain on your skin, all that good stuff. Yeah. So the fact that she was literally pleading for God to forgive her, it's just like, okay, are we gonna keep going back and forth with God about this? Because it seems like at first you're like, nah, I want to rebel. He's not answering my prayers, or like, this isn't right. And then you go ahead and do something that you're quote unquote not supposed to do within your religion, and now you're begging for forgiveness. What's gonna be next that's gonna make you hate God, or at least make you like reconsider relationship with God? Like, girl, I don't have time for this. We already have a whole lot of us going on. We have this politician doing weird stuff with girls in a room and trying to find Kalu, essentially probably trying to him, you know. We don't have time for this back and forth with your religion. Like, I don't have time for it. I feel like that's a complete separate topic than what's actually going on. What's up, you guys? This is the second section of Little Rot and the book discussion. So that's all to say, I finished the book. Oh God. Why didn't y'all warn me that this book is heavy? Like, it makes my head hurt. It makes my heart hurt. It literally just sends me into like a state of like frustration, anger, and just numbness. Like, I felt numb reading the end. I didn't expect it to be a happily ever after. I did not expect that. Obviously, it's not a romance book, but I'll at least have some type of semi-normal, semi-okay ending. But no, I was left with despair, numbness, and if I didn't have depression before this, I have depression now. All right, with that little rant out of the way, let's get into pages 123 all the way to the end of the story. And I'm starting off with this first topic, which is religion and exploitation. Okay. So in the last section, I was talking about, I'm not going to call him by that name, Okino, and I thought he was a politician. He's a pastor. Yikes. Like, that's truly terrifying. And the fact that he is a pastor, if I'm looking down, that's because I got my notes right here. He's a pastor and he's doing stuff like this at church parties with obviously minors. Um, but he also has Ola too, and he's married with children. And also like preaches that God speaks through him. And I it's so much bullshit that it's not even funny. This is literally like, I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this is why I can't get with organized religion, because it's people like this. People like Okino, people who literally SA children and just have such evil intentions by trying to preach the word of God. I call so much BS on it. I absolutely hate it. It makes me hate almost everyone in this book, not because of like, oh, purely they've done it or like they allow this kind of thing, but it's people like him that literally make a mockery of religion and they make a mockery of people that support him. And that's what's so frustrating to me about not only the story, but about these characters. Because, first of all, Ahmed is hosting these parties and you allow a freaking pastor in here. I don't care if he's like the most powerful dude of all and he's like a really great client. No, like you're allowed, y'all. Oh my God, I can't even convey like how much it irritates me. Like they enable this, and it's like, oh my God. But there are people like that who are in situations like this, or at least are very well aware of the people in their environment that do these kind of things. It's so disheartening. It's extremely, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. It's tiring. It's backbreaking. It's like literally you could look at somebody that you truly trust and the fact that they're like, oh no, we don't talk about that. No, it really just ruins everything. So that's just my perspective on the Okino show of it all. Because I'm not calling him by that other name. If you read the book, you know the other name that he goes by. I'm not calling him that. And the fact that everyone calls him that, it literally creeps me out. Like you have grown men calling him Daddio. No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So, going into my thoughts. What did Ola tell Okino to do instead of killing Kalu? Like that part really was very intriguing and interesting because it kept like alluding to like, okay, her doing things and then leading to like, okay, so you're gonna do it? And he's like, yeah, that's very ooh. It's like, yes, you're very dangerous. I'm like, what does she suggest? Like, I'm truly scared because of not only who he is as a person, but if he's saying that Ola is truly like as like evil or deceiving, like what did you think of that that he actually sees it as like, oh, you're dangerous too. I'm scared. I'm scared for Kalu. I'm scared for everyone involved because Ola is just as twisted as him, and that's just weird. It's creepy. It's scary. I don't like it. Okay. All right. Another point. Like, I kind of get it now, but still, it's just like, why did it matter that Kalu fought him that night for him to get off the minor teenager when he has literally like a roster of people that he sleeps with? Because if he's going for church parties, It's not just the girl that was there. I think it's Machi's her name. It's not just Machi. It's literally other people that he probably has had first with, and he has Ola too. So it literally he probably has like a list of people to get with. So why is it literally the fact that Kalu came in this one moment hurt your ego that freaking bad? Like that's just wild to me. Like I get like he's like, oh, he's all powerful. No one's supposed to test him. Yeah, but if you already have everybody else lined up, this shouldn't be an issue. Like I've seen shows, I've seen movies where characters are like super powerful beings and very intimidating, but still they don't let like minor things like that inconvenience them. They literally just be like, well, we'll handle it when we get to it, or like it's not gonna be a problem because I dare him to try it. It's like Wilson Fisk. Sorry for those that probably have never seen sorry, I had to stop right there because I was literally about to say Daredevil and it felt wrong. It felt like I was saying the wrong show, but I was right. Yeah, Wilson Fisk from Daredevil. It's like that. Like he is such a powerful person, very intimidating, and yet there's certain things that you didn't see him stressing over all that much. Like certain things that where it's just like he had other people handle it. He had other things to worry about. Like he was more focused on Vanessa or just like trying to take over the city versus like very, 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 very minor things that really didn't have anything to do with him. Or even just like it could have just been somebody who walked down the street and looked at him funny. You didn't see that as like something that he was clearly worried about. Like it wasn't a bruise to his ego of like minor things. To me, Kalu walking in on Okinoshio with Machi is a minor thing. Like, yeah, he threw him to the ground, but he didn't beat his ass. He didn't like attempt to murder him or anything like that. It's literally, I could just been like, oh, okay, cool, let me get on up. Like, he's an inconvenience because I know Ahmed, putting myself in Okinoshio's shoes, which I would never do, but in this situation, you know, Ahmed runs the business. He's gonna handle it because clearly that's something that he's got to deal with. I'm gonna keep doing what I got to do because clearly whoever this is, he is he's inconvenient. Like he is nothing to me. It's not like it's a freaking police officer or something like that. Someone who is trying to take you down. Like who are you to him? Like if you are such a powerful being, this shouldn't bruise your ego to the point where you got to put a hit on him. To me, that's just stupid. Like it's extremely pointless. That's just like it never and it doesn't make sense to me. And just the fact that Okanosho is literally like a disgusting man. And hopefully his wife is cheating on him too. And hopefully with somebody even more powerful than him because baby, I could never. All right, moving on to the next page. I didn't feel like keeping in me flipping a page. That'll be too much. We're gonna speed this up. Next up, Ahmed. So um there are some things that Ahmed does like this other character. Uh I think it's pronounced soon. It's SEU and I think it's soon because if it was like soon, I feel like that's more I don't know. I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's just soon. Soon. I'm going with that. But Ahmed sleeps with him and the guy like blackmails him to be like, "Ugh, like I'm gonna leak this." Very minor character, very minor situation. Like I feel like it's really stupid. I feel like it didn't really add anything to the story. Um in the moment. And then leading up to him going to Soon's house or wherever he told him to meet him up at. When it gets to physical intimacy, um Ahmed kind of loses control and kind of takes the life of Soon. And that part, I don't even know how to describe it. It's very okay. I guess in a way it kind of alludes to the fact that everyone is capable of anything, obviously. Um, but also it kind of ties him closer to Okunosho. Okunosho, I don't know if he's ever actually killed anyone, but it kind of created a tie, a connection between the two. Like they're both in a position of power in some way. Okunosho is obviously more powerful because he's literally like the god of the fucking area. Everyone just truly believes that he is like God speaks through him and all this kind of stuff. But Ahmed has the business. Everyone respects his business. Like he's a businessman, but he doesn't see himself as like above everybody, which is good. But the dude still has like a sense of power, and so for him to take the life of somebody, it kind of it kind of made me think of like, oh, is this kind of like a story that kind of shows that everyone can be a little bit like Okino to the point where it's like everyone's got a little murdery side of them in them, kind of like no one is better than each other. No one's better than Okinawa because everyone is capable of doing the most like despicable things. Maybe that's kind of like the point that Emezi was trying to get into, or maybe that's just something I took away from it. But after the incident, Ahmed is literally like freaking out and trying to like wake him up, and it sounds like he's having like a panic attack essentially. And it kind of reminded me of going back to when he was talking to Soraya about the incident that happened the last time they were together, and how he took care of the guy that assaulted her. Oh my god, sorry y'all, spam call. Saying that he took care of the person who assaulted her, but I don't think he did personally because the way he was freaking out, it didn't seem like he was the type of person that has done it before, which then goes on into the story more when he actually ends up talking to I believe he was talking to freaking Ijendu and Ima that he has never done it before. I'm like, oh, got it. It makes sense. Yeah, he's never done this before. So he actually had somebody put the hit out on the guy that essayed Soraya. So this is his first time actually doing it. And so he's probably like, oh, snap. Like, I never meant to actually do that. So that makes sense of why he was freaking out like that. Also, that thing just like escalated. Like it was just out of nowhere. I'm like, what the hell is happening? This all happens over the course of a weekend. It's a wild weekend. Like my kind of weekend is playing Sims, making videos for you all, and doing a puzzle and watching a K drama. This is a wild weekend. I'm just gonna say that. All right, now this is technically a separate topic, but it kind of ties in both Ima and religion. So it's Ima and religion, obviously, and just the rest of the story of her, I guess, not even contemplation of her religion, but just her, I guess, like her trying to justify her actions and trying to justify her relationship with God, or at least trying to salvage it from the situation with Agendu, but also the thoughts that she has essentially. It's a lot like of like I feel like it's a lot of like internal dialogue. It's kind of like a monologue, really. It's like a monologue of her moment. It's very interesting how it was placed too, like in the story. But essentially, what I got from it is that she was saying that her and Agendu's situation, not even just like the situation that happened in the story, but her and Agendu in general is optional. Which I find interesting that she uses optional as the language because it's not really an option to not be straight. Like you just are because sexuality is fluid. There's not like, ooh, I'm gonna be bi one day or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's like whoever you're attracted to, like point blank period. It's not that complicated. So for the fact of her to describe it as optional, it was very much like, ooh, girl, are you just I think you're just curious. I think she's literally just like curious, or at least she was semi interested in the situation, and she really just wanted to be close to somebody, and she was drunk. That's how I'm taking it. So she was like, it was like a fleeting moment type of thing. That's what it feels like to me. So then, which leads to my question: is this what a relationship with God slash religion looks like for a lot of people? Is it like the constant struggle to be viewed as good and accepted by God? That question may not make complete sense. I'm not sure, but essentially, I'm trying to get at like, for those that struggle with identifying their spirituality, or even just with um, life in general, but also having such uh, faith based beliefs. Like, are y'all okay for those that really like struggle to this level, like Ima, where you're like constantly being like, no, I want to be loved by God. I gotta like pray. I gotta be redeemed. I have to, like identify my sins and get redemption. I gotta beg for forgiveness. It's like, are y'all okay? Like, I thought y'all God was like all loving and like, forgiving and all that good stuff and died for your sins. So you don't have to do all of this. But if it feels very much like a toxic relationship to me. Like, it's heavy. It's heavy. It kind of makes me sad for her, for that she has to feel like she needs to pray to God to dissolve her sins like that, when it's like, you're okay, girl. It's normal to have like feelings like that. It's normal. We're human. We're not perfect. You don't need to like break yourself down like that to be accepted. Oh God. Are y'all okay? So what I'm really getting at, and this may ruffle some feathers, but this is what I think. This is what I believe. Y'all ain't gonna argue with me in the comments because you will be blocked. But it feels like sexuality, sorry I said it, but yeah, sexuality and religion, it seems like way too complicated to be simplified or have like a positive correlation with each other. Like, I feel like there's so much of on both sides, because with sexuality, it's very fluid. People have just, people are human. People are interested. People are interested. People are interested in people of the same sex, the opposite sex, like, or interested in certain things. That's fine, as long as people consent and they're of age. That's my criteria. As long as you're consenting and of age, I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what you identify as. That's who you are. But I feel like that tied to religion, it doesn't mesh well. It's like having two puzzle pieces that aren't supposed to fit together, or at least like it struggles to fit together. It's like having, how like sometimes with manufacturers when they're making puzzle pieces, and you swear some of those pieces fit so easily and smoothly, but then you get like a puzzle piece and you try to fit it to the other one, and they go together. Literally, like the colors line up and everything. But with you trying to put it in there, it's like really hard to attach it. It's like maybe like it wasn't cut correctly. Maybe some like maybe like the machine cut it incorrectly or something like that. Maybe it's just like very odd, but it goes together. It goes there, but it's so difficult to put the pieces together. That's what sexuality and religion sound like to me. It's just like it's not meshing the way people want it to mesh. And so there's going to be a lot of difficulty trying to navigate both aspects of it. And I feel like that's what Ima's dealing with. Things are not fitting how she's expecting to fit, or she's maybe forcing them together when they're not supposed to. It's just not working. Maybe it's not working in the moment. Maybe it'll work out sometime later on in her life where she can actually be able to balance both, and it can come into harmony. But it just feels like she is forcing something that just isn't working, and it makes me sad for her. Like, And it just really leads to like the other question I had was just like, this one is also hard to just like phrase correctly. I wrote this down like twice. I've the same question twice because I didn't know how to phrase it. But essentially, it's just like if you're constantly having to reevaluate your faith based on what you're experiencing, sexuality, or just life in general, really, like what about organized religion makes it worth it for you to go through so much turmoil to be accepted and loved by something that clearly you've been told doesn't love you or doesn't love certain aspects of you? It doesn't sound appealing to me. Like it doesn't sound good. It 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 sounds like a bad relationship. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel bad for her. Like literally, like reading that part of the story, I forgot what chapters it was, but God, I almost wanted to cry. I was like, girl, I'm like, it's okay. I really wanted to say it's not that deep, but it's deep for her. And I feel like that's what it is for a lot of people. Like it's a really huge aspect of their life because if they've grown up religious or if they are religious themselves too, like it's not just their family who impose their beliefs on them, but they actually truly do have those beliefs. It's like it's easy for me to say it's not that deep because I'm not religious at all. Like I have no ties to any religion. But for those with ties to religion and having this struggle, it's like, oh God, babe, you need a hug. You need a hug. Like it made me sad for her. It really did. But anyway, we know how the story ends. And I have my own interpretations of not only just like the ending, but Little Rot, the title, as a concept, as an understanding, which I will get into in this next section. So let's all take a moment to just like relax and breathe because that part I feel like that was very heavy. And if you're like, "Ooh, girl, you that was a lot that you said," like that's very complex. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. These are just my thoughts because this is, you know, the book discussion. These are things that come up for me. Um, if I hit a nerve, sorry, my bad. I'm gonna put like a little trigger warning at the beginning of the video. Because yeah, I don't know if anyone else has picked up on these topics or discussed these things, but this is just what came up for me, and I feel like I want to take it. I want to do this as gently as possible, like not to like berate anybody or make people feel bad for like their choices or decisions, but just generally just thinking of like, wow, yeah, this is tough. Like this is hard to navigate when it comes to just having having religious ties when you're struggling with identifying yourself. Yeah, it feels like it's just a lot for you all, for people who do struggle with this dynamic. Um, just letting you know, I love you. I am an ally. I literally, in my heart, believe everyone uh, should identify as they want to identify and should never feel ashamed of who they are and who they love. That's just my belief. Sorry, I'm getting teary eyed. So, love you. All right, enough of the sad stuff. Anyway, moving on to the ending. So, here's the title itself and my interpretation. That's just like this tagline for the topic. I might not do like chapter cards within the video. I feel like it'll just be easier to just keep it free flowing. So I know we're getting to the end of it, but hopefully you all had a snack and just put this on in the background. Like you didn't have to stare at me. Hopefully you're not staring at me if you're just like putting my voice on in the background and just listening. I prefer it that way because this is a lengthy ass video. Like you don't need to look at it that bad. You could even be watching Netflix and listening to this on your phone. It's totally fine. Anyway, so we know how the story ends. We know who actually ends up helping Ahmed in this situation with Soon's body. Ajendu comes by and is like, I know what to do. First of all, girl, okay, have you done this before? But clearly she hasn't done it before. Okonosho says in the story that she's never asked this kind of favor before. So it's new, but the fact that she knows what to do and she knows to confide in her godfather, which Okonosho's her godfather, if you didn't know. So she knows how to knows she can confide in him because she knows what Okonosho is capable of, which is scary. God, I hate that man so much. But the fact that Ijendu really helped Ahmed in the situation, it really just put like the whole story into perspective for me. So like this is going back. So these are my notes. They're a little bit all over the place. I'm trying to piece them all together because I just jotted down what I was thinking because I feel like writing complete sentences is going to be hard for me to follow. So I really just bullet pointed it. So I was just going back to Ima's point when she was talking about how she didn't fit into the picture. I didn't think of it now tying it all together. I don't think she meant just not tying into Ajendu's life within her social life in the social circle. Saying I oh my god, I am saying that she doesn't fit in. Like it's like putting a it's it's like photoshopping herself into the picture. It doesn't fit. I feel like that really applies to the entire narrative of the story because Ima doesn't really fit into this very disturbing and dark, bleak life. If that makes sense. Like she is so outside of it that she isn't impacted in the ways everybody else is. I feel like Kalu is more tied to it because his best friend runs this kind of business. And the fact that Kalu is always being invited to it, he's more tied to it than Ima is. Ima has her best friend. But Ima doesn't know that her godfather is Okinosho. Like, that's a different level. But the fact that Kalu knows what his friend's business is and he actually participates in it, I feel like that's what ties him more to the world than Ima does. So she's not tainted by the dark world as much as her peers are tied to. So going back to the title, I feel like the Little Rat in general, it's really much of like I feel like the words together really just describe a darker aspect of like oneself and the fact that it's tainted and damaged by their environment. So everyone minus Ima is a product of their environment. So tying in to the self-fulfilling prophecy, I feel like it's like the adverse effects. So for those that don't know, the self-fulfilling prophecy is pretty much when a person's expectation or belief when a person's expectation or belief causes a prediction to come true. So like you believe that you're gonna fail this test, that you're dumb type of thing, and you end up failing the test. You're like, see, I am dumb. That type of thing. That's how it really correlates together. But I feel like for them, for everyone, so for Kalu, for Ahmed, for Ijendu, for Ola, Soraya, that the environment that they live in distorted their ideology or possibility of seeking a life away from it or seeking a different life. They were already impacted by their environment, and their environment turned them into products of it, turned them into different versions of themselves, causing them to rot from the inside, not inside out, but from outside in. Like it impacted them that way. Like it took a hold of them and they started to make certain decisions based on like survival, and it really ended up compromising their morals, their beliefs in a way for some, or even to even alter their beliefs. Maybe it's because they've already lived in the environment, they already had certain beliefs. So it really led them to making certain decisions that not only harm themselves, but harm other people who are impacted by their decisions. So, in this sense, Kalu, the fact that he got himself tied into the situation, he had his morals and ethics to stop the situation, but ended up being pulled more into the world than he already was by interacting with Machi based off of Ola's command. Let's go back to that. Ola, ooh, girl, you scare me. You scare me a lot because the fact that she came up with that decision, it really just it ruined Kalu. It ruined Kalu and it ruined any chance of a normal future with Ima. And it feels like the ending where they just literally drive off. There is no coming back from any of this. Kalu is already extremely damaged by the situation, damaged by his environment to now to I feel like the point where he's just going to be uh, immersed in this dark world because of just a moment where he felt like his morals were being compromised, and they were being compromised obviously, but by other people. It's not like he was compromising his morals himself, but it led to him compromising his morals and rotting from the outside in, like ruining the person that he was into a a more sinister version of himself. And I feel like Ima needs to just leave and get out because before she gets pulled into this world and turns into a version of herself that she cannot come back from. So that's my take on the story. It's a lot. If you have any comments, you can drop it in the comment box below. If you like this kind of video, despite how heavy it was and how heavy the book is too, really, because it's the material I'm given that was reviewing. If you like the video in general, be sure to like the video. Subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of content. I would also love to know what other things you would love to see, what books I should read, and which books should I discuss in the future. So just let me know. Yeah. And I'm just going to end it on these two quotes I feel like are extremely important, even though they are said by Okanosho. God, I hate them. But these quotes are extremely on point. Snakes lie in wait in the grass. Being him, just being nice, just being honest, he is literally the snake waiting in the grass, biting people and infecting them with poison. And also just the environment in general literally has, it's like snakes, like you're trying to seep into the people and to literally destroy them from the inside. Also, let's quote, "We are all just humans, flawed and ugly," which is also completely true. Because these characters are all flawed, and I won't say they're ugly. I would say that they're flawed and they're very vulnerable. That's how I would phrase it. So until next time, stay magical. Bye.